I have been banging the drum on and on as recently as yesterday's show about Cliff Amore, the center for Rutgers. That's the guy you want, man. He could play for anybody in the country. And I still believe that. But I was shocked to hear last night that Tennessee center Jonas Aidoo is actually visiting Baylor this weekend. And I compare him to Cliff Amore because they're basically the same player, which is big time. Awesome. Yes, take that. Jonas Aidoo, when he announced he was going into the transfer portal I think it was the end of last week, he announces it, and automatically he becomes the third best guy in the portal, according to Evan Miyakawa, and the number 2 guy for On3 Sports. So he jumps in and he's instantly an impact guy. And I mean, there's really no mystery to it. I mean, Tennessee was one of the best teams in the country all year last year, and he was a starter averaging 11-7 for them. Very much like Amore in their games as well as their size, both basically the same size, 6'11", 240 for Jonas Aidoo. He's a guy who scores basically just at the rim, but has great athleticism. If you like Yves Missi, you're going to like Jonas Aidoo. He's not quite the athlete that Missi is, but that's still saying something pretty good. He can still put the ball on the floor a little bit, and he can score in transition. He's a great lob threat, but not just a lob threat. And all the great things we said about Amore and the defensive angle that Amore brings, Aidoo does the same. I mean, he's a very much a valued defensive guy. In fact, the tweet that I saw from, I think it was Evan Mia when Aidoo went into the portal was, this is one of the best two-way centers in the whole country, one of the best two-way postmen. And that is true. And he is a shot blocking machine. He has a 9% block rate, which is like off the charts good, man. Like, that's really good. Averaged about 2 blocks a game, which is a little bit more. I think it was 1.8 blocks a game, and Yves Missi was about 1.5 blocks. So, like, you're still getting that kind of defensive output, as well as having a guy who is a lob threat, can play above the rim, very efficient in the low post. Shoots it at 61% at the rim, which is where most of his field goals are coming from. About 60% of his field goals are coming from there. So in a way, you are adding an experienced guy with a lot of the Yves Missi traits, a lot of the Yves Missi qualities. He does have just 1 year of eligibility left. Same thing with Amore. So it really is. I mean, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. If you're bringing in one of those guys, either way, you are bringing in one of the top big men in the entire country, one of the top big men in the transfer portal as well. So if you're Baylor and you can nab one of those two, again, we haven't heard much on the Amore front, just that he's narrowed it down to 12. Haven't heard about visits or anything like that. We really don't know much of the competition for Jonas Aidoo. That's been kept pretty close to the chest. But we do know that he is visiting Baylor this weekend. That was reported last night. So we don't know much of the competition, but it was Travis Branham last night who tweeted out that he's from 247, very trusted guy, actually a Lexington, Kentucky guy, as a matter of fact, that he is visiting Baylor this weekend, Jonas Aidoo. So big news there. We don't know much of the competition. We do know one school that is after him big time, and that is North Carolina. That sound familiar? Because they're also after Cliff Amore. So either way, you are battling one of the great blue bloods of college basketball for this prized 6'11" talent. Now, one thing, or a couple of things I should mention. I've mentioned all the good stuff about Jonas Aidoo. There are some caveats that come to this. First thing, he has declared for the draft. Most of the experts are doubting that he will actually stay in the draft, but he will go through the draft process. So that is something that schools might need to wait on a little bit before they can get his signature. So that's one thing. Again, doubt that he'll actually go through with it and stay with the draft, but he has declared for the draft. Second thing, I looked at his game logs this year, and he was shut out one time in the whole year. and that was in the Elite Eight game against Purdue and Zach Edey. Now, going up against Zach Edey is no easy task. But in your team's most important game of the year to throw up a goose egg in the points department, that cannot be ignored. That cannot be ignored, especially when you're looking at a team like Baylor that is desperate to get over a hump once again in the NCAA tournament. So that's tough. And in fact, I think when I looked through the game logs, he had been in single digits only like 6 times all year, and 3 of them were in the last 2 weeks of Tennessee's season. So that's not terrific. The other thing that could be seen as a caveat is Jonas Aidoo is from Durham, North Carolina, and UNC is after him. Now, I know there are some of you who are saying, well, Cam, that must be great. Duke is in Durham. So he must, growing up there, he must hate Carolina. Probably not the case. We know here in Waco that there are plenty of Aggies as our neighbors here in Waco. It is very much that way in Durham, North Carolina. In fact, if Duke is the most supported team in Durham, it is by a hair. There are Tar Heels fans everywhere. In fact, JJ Redick had a great story when he was there that like one of his favorite cafeteria workers was a big Carolina fan, and she would, talk crap to him when they would lose the Tar Heels. So you have to deal with UNC at every turn here. They're looking to replace Armando Bacot. They have circled Cliff Abori. They have circled Jonas Aidoo, and Baylor is battling for both. If they could, rock, paper, scissors for who's going to get that. In fact, I was actually texting Isaac Shade, who does Locked On Tar Heels. He gave that very example. We can have one. Y'all can have one. We'll just duke it out for whomever that one is going to be. I'm happy with either one, but Jonas Aidoo is a guy who can come in here and be an all Big 12 guy right away. He is that impactful on both ends of the floor. He has experience. He has strength. He finishes through contact. He takes a lot of pride in the defensive end. This is a guy I think Baylor has been lacking the last couple of years. Definitely in 2023 with having Flo Thamba in there instead. And in a lot of ways in 2024 as well. Again, I'm one of the biggest Yves Missi fans out there. Aidoo just gives you some things that Yves Missi did not give. So big weekend on that front. If you see him at Meat Casita at Scott Drew's booth, please give him a hearty hello and a nice sick 'em because this is a guy that Baylor could really, really use. Most schools in the country could use him, and he's only visiting, well, I don't know how many he's visiting this weekend, but he's visiting Baylor this weekend. Like almost 350 teams don't have him visiting this weekend, but Baylor does. So it's something to look positively on. Once those guys start taking visits, that means they are pretty close to making their decision and are seriously considering staying in college basketball in the Aidoo case. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. We really appreciate that. And if you want to keep up to date on all the Baylor sports news, be sure to give us a like and ring the notification bell because we are your first listen today and every day. We are your exclusive home for nothing but Baylor sports content 5 days a week that's not coming straight from the university. Be sure to follow us here on YouTube and also wherever you get your podcasts and on Twitter as well at Locked On Baylor. Thanks so much again. Have a good one and sick 'em.